and we were kind of doing some things and getting ready, and then you said, "Oh, here comes the Open," and we were ready to go, and it just feels like
flowed. It felt natural.
Yeah, so that was good. So I guess that I don't want to get too geeky on this, but the third period yesterday was incredibly, fantastically energetic and fun, and you were having a great time.
Lots of energy out there. It was great. It was so much fun to watch.
If they had not come back and won that game, I think things would have been pretty dire. There would be a very different feel about this
Down
series.
0-2, headed to Nashville. Yes.
So now you're feeling very positive?
I'm feeling about as positive. I think everybody thought going into this that it was going to be a long series, and to have a long series, you have to have somebody get some road wins. So yeah, I didn't think they were they certainly weren't blown out of the water game one. They certainly didn't play incredibly well game two. You walk out of here with a split. Game 5 means there's more hockey to be played here in St. Louis next week.
Exactly. And
I'm happy about that.
That has to make everybody happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So last week we had Dr. Kathy Maupin on and Brett Newcomb, and they were talking about bioidentical hormone replacement, and they were actually talking about a book that they had written on the subject about the importance of testosterone for women and how that matters and how that makes a real difference in a woman's ability to feel good as she gets older. And they were they were nice enough to give me 2 copies of the book and sign them. And so those are going to be available if you go on my website, michaelmahon.org. That's MichaelMahon.org. And send me an email and let me know that you are interested in the books. Then I will respond to you and let you know how you can get those books. But if anybody wants a copy of the book, give me a shout out on my email and my website and let me know, and I will email you back and let you know how you can pick those up. That was a really great conversation. It's a very, very interesting topic. So if you are interested in that, then certainly go on my website, michaelmahon.org, and send me an email, let me know, and I will get back with you and let you know how to pick one of those copies up. So also on that website, you can get the podcast. So tell all your friends, if you listen to the show and you like the show, tell your friends to go on michaelmahon.org and listen to the podcast, so the podcast numbers go up, and that's always a good thing. And also, you can always tweet me at Michael Mahon or at Psych With Mike on Twitter, and also at Psych With Mike on Facebook. So tonight, we're going to talk a little bit more about a topic that we've kind of been going into, which is 2 weeks ago we were talking about oxytocin and the importance of oxytocin, which is a hormone in the human body that makes you feel good and is responsible for what's called prosocial behavior. So smiling and laughing and feeling good, those things are the result of oxytocin, and that oxytocin is actually produced and delivered in the human body as a result of human touch. And so one of the ways, obviously, in which we get oxytocin then is in relationships. So one of the things that I tell clients when they come to my office is that, in my opinion, the human being, the human body is designed at a molecular level to be in attached relationships. So individual humans who live in isolation eventually go crazy and they die, even if they have all of their other needs met. So we know with beyond any shadow of a doubt that human beings are meant to be in connected relationships. And so we have to be in those relationships to survive and thrive. And oxytocin is one of the ways in which we feel good being in those relationships, and that's based on something called attachment. So when you are in a relationship, most of us think of that as attached, but there's actually two different ways in which human beings can experience attachment. So there's the way in which you experience attachment when you are born, which is called bonding, which is actually a chemical response. And then there's the way in which you experience attachment as an adolescent and an adult, which is called attachment, and it is psycho-emotional. So the first thing I want to do is kind of unpack that a little bit. And I know that I, tell you guys all the time, I don't want to be overly professorial, but on the website at Psych With Mike on Facebook, there's a PowerPoint that has some information on it. So if you want to look at that, then as always, there's some information there that maybe makes this a little bit easier to follow and understand. But I'm going to try and break it down as succinctly as I can. Again, anytime anybody has any questions, you can always get us on the phone line, area code 314-969-9797 or 866-455-9797. And you can also tweet me at Psych With Mike on Twitter. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is this idea of bonding. So bonding is a biochemical response that happens the minute that a person is born. So nowadays, when a child is born, do you have any kids, Frank?
No.
You do not. Okay. So you've never been in a delivery room when a child's been born?
No, I have not.
But you have seen nowadays that when a child is born, one of the first things that they do is they usually have the spouse or the partner cut the umbilical cord as long as there isn't an emergency going on. And then the first thing they do is place the baby in skin-to-skin contact with the primary caregiver, the mother or the father. And the reason that we do that is because we know that when a child is placed skin-to-skin contact with a primary caregiver, that the oxytocin levels of both the child and the primary caregiver skyrocket. And so that forms the initial foundation for what we call the biochemical process of bonding. So when a child is placed skin-to-skin contact with the primary caregiver, the oxytocin levels goes up, and that creates an actual chemical response inside both the mother and the child, or even the father and the child, and makes them more attracted to each other.
Is there a rule of thumb on a time frame for how quickly that has to happen?
So they want to try and do that as quickly as possible. The quicker that you do it, the more intense the reaction. But now obviously, if there's a medical emergency and that has to be delayed, then you still want to try and do that as quickly as possible. Usually, as long as there's some holding going on of the child's oxytocin levels are going to go up. And the more skin-to-skin contact that the parent can have, the more their oxytocin levels are going to go up. But obviously, an adult is going to be more able to say, oh, I love this child and I'm attached to this child just because of their own thinking. They can tell themselves, oh, this is my child and I love this child. The baby obviously can't do that. So it's important for the child to be held. And that's why after World War II, they did very specific research on this, and they had a lot of children, obviously, after the war that didn't have parents for any number of reasons, because they were born out of wedlock, because people were going off to war, or individuals were killed during the war, or they were just orphaned for any other number of reasons. And they would put these children in these orphanages, and they specifically told the caregivers not to hold the children, because they didn't want the children to get attached. And what they found was that a certain percentage, about 1/5, 20% of the children developed what we now call pervasive developmental disorder, what was then called mental retardation, simply as a result of not being held. So we know that the process of being in contact with a human being is really, really important for the development, the emotional, but also the cognitive, the intellectual development of children. Now, this is very different. When I was born, my dad took my mom to, this was 1964, my dad took my mom to the hospital and dropped her off. and then went to work. And he didn't come back for a week because my mom stayed in the hospital for a week. And so back then, a child would actually be born in an OR suite, in an operating room, in a sterile environment, because at that time, we thought that the ability to control exposure to germs was much more important than this idea of skin-to-skin contact. And now we know that that's just simply not true. So we don't do that anymore for individuals who were born in that way. I'm not going to say that that was horrible and ruined their lives, but it certainly was a deficit, because it's much better to be in that skin-to-skin contact.
How long did that go on for?
Well,
up until 85, 93. But obviously you were mid-60s or early 60s there. When did that start? When did they start separating? And then when did we stop? What was the...
So we started separating after World War II, specifically because...
Well, obviously you said during that they were doing research on the separation. Prior to World War II, everybody was born at home, instantaneous contact. Is that how it was? And then after World War II, it was all hospitals?
Right. So most children born prior to World War II were born at home, usually with a midwife, sometimes with a doctor, yes. And then the child was immediately given to the mother right after birth. After World War II, because technology was increasing, and because we were able to create sterile environments, and because we now knew that just simply hand washing was a way to eliminate influenza and things like that. We assumed, people were doing it for, good reasons. We assumed that it would be good to try and control the exposure to germs and disease for those small children who might not have developed immune systems. But we now know that that actually wasn't true. Now, I do know for a fact that by 87, when my first son was born, that was different. And I know that certainly by the early 80s, they weren't doing that anymore. Now, I don't know how soon before 1982 or whatever that they weren't doing it.
So say 40 years or so. Mm-hmm. And it probably, on the positive side, it probably helped the infant mortality rate.
Absolutely.
By going from somebody's house and a midwife, maybe a doctor, to a hospital. So you had your positives there, but you had your negatives on the other end.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's no question that keeping the child from being exposed to disease and germs is a good thing. Nowadays, we know that we want that skin-to-skin contact. So whether the child is born at home or born in a hospital, we want to try and get that skin-to-skin contact as quickly as possible, barring any kind of medical emergency. But during that period where we weren't doing that, then what we know is that those children had a more difficult time being able to attach to their primary caregivers. So that is bonding. Bonding is an important first step in the process of developing attachments. So individuals who have a good bonding experience are going to be better at developing attachments later. So that doesn't mean if you didn't have a good bonding experience that you're in trouble, but it means that the better the bonding experience, the better the more the head start you have to be able to have good attachments later. But after that bonding experience, so after the first couple of months are over, then that biochemical bonding is no longer predominant, and now attachment is based on socio-emotional factors. So you are in a relationship now with the primary caregiver, and the primary caregiver smiles at you, and then you smile back. That's called social reciprocity. And social reciprocity is the next big thing that lays a foundation for a bonding experience. So the reason why the bonding experience is important is because when you have that good bonding experience, your oxytocin levels go up. And so now you're going to engage in more pro-social behaviors like smiling, like laughing, like holding your arms out to the other person to say, hey, give me a hug. And then the social reciprocity, the experience of that social reciprocity is going to be more positive. So bonding lays the foundation for a more positive social reciprocity experience on both the part of the caregiver and the child. And that is what helps to lay the foundation for that good bonding experience. So by the time a child goes off to school and starts to interact now with other people in their environment, whether that is children or other adults, teachers and principals and other people in their environment, then that social reciprocity is something that they use to try and create attachment with these other individuals who are important in their lives. And the better that those experiences are, the more that the person feels secure in those experiences, the better their attachment experience is going to be. Now, when that attachment experience isn't good, then you have what's called in psychology an attachment disorder. The most profound of that is what's called reactive attachment disorder. So if anybody has ever heard of that, it's RAD, reactive attachment disorder. That is a very profound attachment disorder, and those individuals are oftentimes both emotionally and behaviorally disturbed. So they go off to school and they have real issues in the school, and the school ends up having to address that, and those children end up in some kind of therapy usually, or in a special needs classroom and getting some kind of services through the school system. But that bonding and then that attachment relationship when you're a child leads to the formation of a good, healthy sense of security that goes into adolescence. And adolescence is where that really makes a difference. So that's really the first time that most of us start to have real significant attachment experiences with other people not in our primary family of origin. And so when we have those good attachment experiences during adolescence, then that sets the stage for good attachment experiences during adulthood. So clearly there are 3 different phases then, maybe even 4. So there's the phase of infancy, then the phase of childhood, the phase of adolescence, and the phase of adulthood. And at any point along the way, those experiences of attachment can be problematic. And when they are problematic, we want to try and get them back on track as quickly and as efficiently as we can. But when they are good, then they form the foundation for healthy attachment during adulthood. And we're going to go to the first break, but when we come back after the first break, we're going to talk about specifically the attached relationship during adulthood and how we can try and work on that, even if we didn't have great attachment during adolescence, and try and make those better. Be right back.
Hush, my darling, don't fear, my darling, the lion sleeps tonight.
Follow Mike on Twitter at Psych With Mike. Check out our newest web video series, Annie Got Your Gun. Join Annie from The Annie Fry Show as she goes through the steps of purchasing her first handgun and getting the proper training. Watch now at 971talk.com. Brought to you by Southern Armory and U.S. Law Shield.
Hey St. Louis, Brett Hall for Railgate Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Got a hull of a great deal on a hull of a truck now at Railgate during the spring clearance event. Lease a new 2016 Ram Quad Cab 4x4 from only $159 a month. Choose from over 200 Rams in stock. You heard right, only $159 a month for a 2016 Ram Quad Cab 4x4. Visit Railgate today in Ellisville, Missouri or Columbia, Illinois, or online at railgatedirect.com.
See dealer for details. Payment is for 36 months with down payment with approved credit.
Visit Royalgate Dodge in Ellisville or Columbia, Illinois. Mention Psych With Mike and get the Royal Package at no charge.
Jerry Kelly was recently voted one of the best places to work in the St. Louis area. Yeah, a heating and air company. Who'd have thunk it? Well, we've always thunk it. Because we're always looking for nice, smart, extremely talented people who've just got it going on. And those aren't just fancy words. In fact, right now, this very moment, we're hiring office staff, comfort consultants, and have tech positions for the mechanically talented. For more information on the career of a lifetime, visit
JerryKelly.com.
My name is Ruth Rusi. I'm a retired teacher. I'm 91 years old, and this is how I live united. I say retired, but not really. Once a week, I read books to children as part of United Way's education program. Reading to a child creates links between language and literacy. It creates a bond between grown-up and child, and believe it or not, it prepares them for a better academic future. Oh, we read about frogs and flies and pigs with wings, all sorts of juicy stuff. It's a joy to watch all those little faces. I figure I have the time and they have the need. And I've always believed that if we're not here to help each other, then what are we here for really? My name is Ruth Rusey. I help kids prepare to succeed in school. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're struggling with your mortgage. You think about it all the time.
What are we going to do if we lose the house?
It's time to stop thinking and start dialing. Call 1-888-995-HOPE for a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. We've helped over 1 million homeowners, and we want to help you. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Is that a faucet running? That's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest. Forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink.
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
I didn't know the trees were so amazing.
Yep, and the forest gives us shade, trees to climb.
That's awesome. Let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
The Dave Glover Show.
Win tickets at 971talk.com to DGS VIP. Presented by Southern Armory. It's now sold out, but we have your chance to get up close and personal with the Dave Glover Show. Thursday, May 11th at the Playhouse at Westport Plaza. Join us for an intimate evening with Dave Glover to hear his stand-up comedy and unbelievable stories. Plus an acoustic Beatles set from the Dave Glover Band. Register to win sold-out tickets at 971talk.com. DGS VIP, May 11th at the Playhouse at Westport Plaza, where every seat feels like front row. Brought to you by Weber Chevrolet. Talk lines are open now. 314-969-9797 or toll free 866-455-9797. Now, more Psych with Mike on FM NewsTalk 97.1.
Welcome back into the Royal Gate Dodge Studios. This is Psych with Mike. So before the break, we were talking a little bit about the difference between bonding and attachment, and we had gotten to adolescence and saying that this bonding experience that leads to which is a chemical, electrochemical phenomenon, then leads to the socio-emotional phenomenon of attachment. And it is the goodness of those experiences that gives us a sense of security as we grow older. And so when we get into adolescence, if we have a good sense of security and we've had those positive experiences, then we're much more likely to go out as adolescents and engage in behaviors to try and make friends and get in, enter into a peer group and do all the things that we think of that are important during adolescence. And then if we didn't have good bonding or attached experiences and we are not very secure, then we go into adolescence and we're worried about what people think of us and we're very shy and we don't really have the ability to go out and make friends, or we don't feel confident in our ability to make friends. And I'm not saying that every shy person had poor attachment experiences, but that is kind of when you think of what does that look like during adolescence, that's what it looks like, is an insecure person who then has difficulty being able to go out and enter into a peer group with confidence and feel good about that. And so then those experiences during adolescence lays the foundation for how you're going to feel as an adult. And it's really, for most of us, these adult relationships that we really care about. And so once we get into our adult relationships and we go out and we are looking for a partner, or we found a partner and we are in a committed relationship, we have this attachment, but a lot of times we don't really think about how do we go about fostering that. And so what we really want to try and do is to think about, am I doing the best that I can to really try and create a good foundation for my attached relationships and to nurture that on a regular basis in a way that actually maximizes my positive results. And so one of the ways in which I think we can do that is actually very effective is in terms of thinking about not only what is our love language, but also the love language of our partner. So if you've ever heard of the book, The Languages of Love, then you may already have some idea about what I'm going to talk about. If you haven't, then what I would like you to think about is maybe going to either the Twitter or the Facebook at Psych With Mike, and there is a quiz. Now, the quiz is 30 questions, but it's not a difficult quiz. It is basically 2 comparison statements. So like it says, I like to be touched or I like to get gifts. And you just pick the one that is more right for you, and you go through 30 of those questions. And at the end, it's going to tell you what your love language is. Now, what happens a lot of times when I talk about this in therapy is that people go through and they say, well, I took the test for my partner and my partner is... No, you can't do that. You can't take the test for your partner. Your partner has to take it and has to be honest about their own feelings. Because if you take it, then you are going to be taking the test and you are going to be filtering that information through your own biases, how you would either like your partner to be or how you think your partner is, which may or may not be factually accurate. So it's important for each individual to take the test themselves, but then to share that information. And so the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And what that means is that each of us feels good and attached, connected, secure, whatever word that you want to use, by getting information in a certain way. And not all of us are the same. So, for example, if you are someone who appreciates acts of service and your partner is somebody who appreciates words of affirmation, so saying nice things about yourself or about your partner, then you can do all the dishes in the world. You can mow the grass. You can, clean the garage and make the basement immaculate. And your partner may not experience that as you telling them that you love them, even though you're going to say, oh my gosh, I do so much. How come you're not getting this message? But if their language is words of affirmation and you are not giving them affirming words, then all of that effort is lost. Now, that doesn't mean that it isn't good to do. You can still go do all those good things, but you need to make sure that you are talking to your partner in a language that they understand. So when couples come to me, and they'll say, well, I do all this stuff. I do all the laundry and I clean up the kitchen, or I give her all these gifts, or, I tell her all the time how beautiful she is, but then she doesn't get that. It's like she's not even paying attention. Well, it's because you're not talking in a language that your partner understands. So it's like, if your partner understands English and you're speaking Japanese, it doesn't matter how loud you shout, they can't understand you. And so what you have to do is to try and understand what their love language is. And so if you go onto the Twitter site or onto the Facebook site and look at the quiz and actually go through it, both you and your partner, and then you identify what your love language is, and then you share that, then what that means is that now everybody knows what your love language is. So if your love language is words of affirmation and your partner's love language is acts of service, And now your partner can understand that it doesn't matter how many nice things I do for you, that I need to say to you that you are an attractive, wonderful person, and I can change the way that I am communicating that message. It doesn't mean that I stop doing acts of service completely, but I have to also supplement that with the language that you understand. And then when I talk to you in a language that you understand, you're going to be able to hear it. And when your partner can hear it, then they can respond to you in a way that is loving and caring. So remember that attachment is based on this concept of social reciprocity. You're going to get back what you give. And so if you think that you work really, really hard in your relationship and you give your partner all of this wonderful stuff and they're not giving it back to you, then I can pretty much guarantee that you are speaking to them in a love language that they don't understand. So what you have to do is try and understand what their love language is and communicate to them through that language. And when you do that, then you are going to see that they are going to reciprocate in kind, because now they can actually hear you. So one of the things that we do in therapy all the time is to try and train individuals how to be able to communicate with each other more effectively. And one of the ways that we do that is through communication exercises. And I was, in a previous life, I worked in a chemical dependency treatment center. And in the treatment center, one of the things that I would do is during family week, I would try and help individuals communicate better by giving them a communication exercise where there was some object. I used a tennis ball, and the person with the tennis ball was the person who was able to speak. So they would say something, and then they would hand the tennis ball to their partner, and their partner would then respond to, or would actually repeat back what the person said to their satisfaction before they could respond. So, for example, I had this guy who was in treatment, and he was in treatment for alcoholism, and his wife had come up for family weekend, and I don't remember, it was like, it was cold outside because it was snowing, and I don't remember if it was like right after Thanksgiving or just before Christmas. I don't think it was around Christmas. So it was somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but it wasn't in January. I know that. And so they were there, and we were doing this exercise. So the woman started, and she was holding the tennis ball, and what she said was, "I really hope it stops snowing soon so they can clear the streets off, because I'm afraid to drive home in the snow." So she gives a tennis ball to her husband, and I said, "Okay, so what did your wife say?" And he said, "She doesn't want to drive home in the snow." And so I said to the woman, "Is that what you said?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, that wasn't what I heard you say." So I asked the guy to reframe, and he said, "Well, I think she doesn't want to drive home in the snow." And so we did this for a while until eventually the guy realized that I wasn't going to stop, and there was no way out of this except to actually sit and think about it, because I don't think he was making it up. I think he really wasn't hearing her, because that was a message that was intimidating for him. And also, he just really wasn't used to trying to pay genuine attention to what his wife was saying. And so he thought about it for a while, and eventually this look came on his face like he had just realized the secret of relativity. And he said, "Wow, I think you're afraid to drive home in the snow." And she started crying, because it was the first time in their relationship that he ever actually was able to hear her and respond to her in a way where she knew that he understood, and it changed everything. So that's what we're talking about. So when we come back, we're going to talk some more about this. And if you have any questions, again, area code 314-969-9797, 866-455-9797. Be right back.
And instead of saying all of your
Follow Mike on Twitter @Psych with Mike.
realize that life goes fast. It's hard to make the good things last. You realize
This is Psych with Mike.
it's just an illusion caused by
The news of the day.
This nut job in North Korea developed a missile.
Every day.
You simply cannot take money from Russia.
FM NewsTalk 97.1.
Taking the wall off the table.
Younger, smarter, better.
This is Brett Hall for Royal Gate, the largest Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram dealer in Missouri and Southern Illinois. With over 1,000 vehicles available at guaranteed lowest prices, why go anywhere else? During the spring clearance event, get a hull of a deal on a new 2017 Jeep Cherokee Latitude from only $19,977. That's 25% off MSRP. These Jeeps are equipped, not stripped. Visit Royal Gate in Ellisville, Missouri or Columbia, Illinois, or online at RoyalGateDirect.com. Number one for a reason.
Sale price includes all incentives. See dealer for complete details.
Visit Royal Gate Dodge in Ellisville or Columbia, Illinois. Mention Psych with Mike and get the Royal package at no charge.
Hey guys, Glover here for Zero Res. As you know, I've had them out to my house. Dave Murray's had them out to his house. Lots of my friends and family have had them out to the house to get your carpets cleaned, your area rugs, your furniture. It is spring cleaning time. And remember, it's not just about having your house look great, although I can attest your house will look great. It's about your family's health. Bacteria, allergens, they build up in your carpets, they get nasty, they get dirty, and it's just flat out unhealthy. They're not going to use sudsy, soapy approach. They're not going to use the steamer approach. They won't use any harmful chemicals that would be bad for your family, for your kids, for your pets. Call today and ask for the Dave Glover special, 3 rooms zero-fied starting at just $119. That's 3 rooms starting at $119. Call 314-474-2020 or go online at ZeroResSTL.com, 314-474-2020, ZeroResSTL.com.
Hi, Sean Vinson, President and CEO of Vinson Mortgage. You constantly hear mortgage companies advertising deceptive low interest rates with free this or free that, which is very misleading because nothing in this world is free. But that's not how we do business at Vinson Mortgage. The difference is we truly care. We look at your entire financial situation to find the best solution for you, to save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars each and every month. We don't need to advertise a low deceptive rate because we already have the lowest interest rates and the best service. We have a loan program for just about everyone in every situation. And there's a reason our family's been in business for over 30 years, and it's simple. It's because we're here to save you money. If you're tired of the other guys screaming misleading low rates, call the name you know and trust, Vinson Mortgage, for an honest rate. 314-839-9999. That's 839-9999. Or chat online at vincentmortgage.com. NMLS number 225095, 12801 Flushing Meadows Drive, St. Louis, Missouri, 63131.
Hey, St. Louis. Brett Hall for Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram. Got a hull of a great deal on a hull of a truck now at Royal Gate during the spring clearance event. Lease a new 2016 Ram Quad Cab 4x4 from only $159 a month. Choose from over 200 Rams in stock. You heard right. Only $159 a month for a 2016 Ram Quad Cab 4x4. Visit Royal Gate today in Ellisville, Missouri or Columbia, Illinois, or online at RoyalGateDirect.com.
See dealer for details. Payment is for 36 months with down payment with approved credit.
Visit Royal Gate Dodge in Ellisville or Columbia, Illinois. Mention Psych with Mike and get the Royal package at no charge.
Chattanooga.
Terrorist attack.
Fort Hood.
References to Allah.
Pulse nightclub in Orlando.
It's going to happen again.
We don't have to let you into this country.
Sean Hannity.
Weeknights 7 to 9.
Wake the hell up.
On FM News Talk 97.1.
Talk lines are open now. 314-969-9797 or toll free 866-455-9797. Now, more Psych with Mike on FM News Talk 97.1.
Do you
Welcome back to the Royal Gate Dodge Studios, Psych with Mike. It is about 8:43, and we are back. We've been talking about attachment and bonding and how we can try and make our relationships with our significant others better. And one of the ways in which I think we can do that is to try and be aware of what the love language is of the person we are in this attached relationship with, because most of us would like to communicate with our significant other in a way that makes them feel special, because we would like to get that kind of treatment reflected back to us. But the only way we can get that reflected back to us is if we are communicating with them in a way in which they understand. So Joni is on the line, and we're going to go to her. Joni, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine.
What can I do for you?
Well, I have been in Tulsa family court trying to get a divorce now for 6 years of litigation. It has not been that I put a hold on anything or my spouse put a hold on anything. It has been just a very iterative, prolonged litigation, and I still do not have a ruling on my divorce. My divorce trial alone took over 2 years because they spaced out the trial days sometimes 4 to 6 months apart.
Mm-hmm.
And we had our last trial day on December 29th of 2016, and I'm still waiting for a ruling from the judge. At this point, it has cost, you can imagine, a significant amount of money, and I feel like the attorneys are not helping on any side of this equation to get this divorce done, and they have lined their pockets with, beaucoup bucks.
Uh-huh.
And I want to know what my rights are. I will be appealing because the statutes also have not been followed.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like my constitutional rights have been violated. I did have a PO for 4 years,
Uh-huh.
and it was dismissed, and no reason was given why it was dismissed. So it's just been a horrendous ordeal to be in Tulsa family court trying to get divorced.
Well,
what would you recommend?
thank you for your call. I understand that can be really, really difficult. I want to say up front, obviously, I am not an attorney, and so I have no ability to be able to give anyone any kind of legal advice. Now, that being said, I have worked with a lot of individuals who have gotten divorces, and I've never heard of that being something that drug out for 6 years just because without somebody contesting it. So I'm sorry, Joni, I really don't know enough about that to be able to give you any advice other than, I would just encourage you to hang in there and to try and continue to do everything that you can to try and move the case forward. But again, not being an attorney, I really don't have any way to give you any really good advice on that. So, when I'm thinking about trying to communicate with my significant other in a way that allows them to really understand and to hear what I am saying to them, what I want to try and do is understand their love language, but then I also want to try and then communicate primarily with them from that love language. So if my significant other's love language is acts of service, then what that means is that I want to try and actively do everything that I can to try and give them messages in that love language, even though that may not be my primary love language. So when we are talking from a language that isn't our native language, sometimes that's difficult and it takes a lot of practice. And what's not going to happen is that most of us aren't going to get it right the first time. So I had told you before the second break that I'd had this guy come in and he had said to his wife he had been in treatment for alcohol abuse, and he and his wife had been there, and his wife had said, "I'm afraid to drive home in the snow." It was really hard for him to be able to make the connection of that to that in his mind, and so he repeated back several times, "I think you don't want to drive home in the snow." When he finally recognized, hey, you're afraid to drive home in the snow, that was really transformative for his wife and I think for him. I think both of them really experienced the power of that moment and really understood that that was something that had a lot of energy. Now, what I don't know is whether or not these two were able to continue that process when they went home. And so one of the things that I tell people all the time is that we are really, really smart animals, but we are animals. And so all of the processes of classical conditioning and operant conditioning apply to us. Now, if you don't know what those are, classical conditioning is when Pavlov rang a bell and paired it with blowing a powder, a meal powder, a food powder in a dog's mouth and got them to salivate. And eventually he got the dogs to salivate just by ringing the bell. And so that's classical conditioning. Then operant conditioning means that you pair reward with behaviors that an animal wouldn't normally do until they actually do the behavior you want them to do. For example, as an undergraduate at St. Louis University, I was able to train a pigeon how to peck a specific spot on a wall until the pigeon's beak basically fell off. I mean, you can actually teach an animal to do that. Now, not to make their beak fall off, but to peck a specific spot on a wall until until you make them stop by discontinuing the reward. So that's operant conditioning. So we all are subject to both classical and operant conditioning. What that means is that all of us perceive things based on the number of times that we have been exposed to them. So you have to be exposed to something, or your perception of something has to be 51% for you to perceive it. So what does that mean? That means that if you feel like things are bad, it's because 51% of your perceptions are that things are bad. If you feel like things are good, it's because 51% of your perception is that things are good. So when you go out and change the way that you communicate with your partner, that doesn't mean that immediately now everything is perfect. It's going to take a little time. You're going to have to practice and get good at it, and your partner is going to have to experience often enough until it becomes 51% of their awareness. And that's not 51% of your awareness. So what happens is people come to my office and they say, "Oh, I did what you said. I did it several times over this last week. I can name at least 7 times when I made coffee and she didn't recognize it." Okay, I get it. You did some things that were out of your comfort zone that maybe you hadn't done before, and she didn't immediately respond, or he didn't immediately respond, and now you come back to my office and say, "Okay, that didn't work." No, that's not fair. You have to do it often enough that, number one, you get good at it, and number two, your partner reaches a perceptual threshold of 51%. So think about it. If there are 7 days in a week, and you spend several hours together every day, and you do one thing a day to try and let them know that you are thinking of them, and that's in the language that they hear and understand, that's still not a majority of the time that you spend together. So you have to do this often enough that you get good at it and that they start to be able to hear it. So what I tell people is this: if you really want to practice this, if you want to try and make a really concerted effort to change the way that you communicate with your significant other and make sure that you are doing that in a way that they understand, then what do you need to do? You need to figure out a way to make yourself consistent. So consistency is always the key. So what is your language for learning new behaviors? So some people are really good at making lists. So you make a list of everything that you have to do, and that really helps you out. Some people are really good at keeping the information just nested in their brain. Some people are really good at doing something because they create some kind of reminder system. So whatever it is that helps you to be able to learn things, then you've got to employ that technique in your regular behavioral repertoire to keep you on task so that you remember to talk to your partner in a way that he or she can actually understand. So it is going to be some work on your part to actually train yourself to make sure that you're being consistent before you can actually see results in your partner's behavior. Now, if two people are willing to do this together to make a commitment that both of them are going to work on it simultaneously, then obviously this can be much more effective and can result in much more positive change much more quickly. But both people have to be willing to actually work on changing their own individual behavior while at the same time then responding to their partner in a way that the partner actually hears as a language of love. So if two people are willing to work on it together, then what I say is this. So first off, you got to identify what your partner's language is. So if you are somebody who knows their love language, make sure that you are telling your partner what that love language is. If you don't know and your partner doesn't know, then take the quiz that's on the @Psych With Mike Facebook page or the @Psych With Mike Twitter page, and then identify to your partner what that love language is. And then once you each know what your love language is, then have a candid conversation about ways in which your partner can speak to you in a language that they can hear and understand. Now, the reason why that's really important is if you just say, okay, my partner's love language are words of affirmation, so I'm going to tell them 15 times a day that I love them, that they're beautiful, that they're the best, that I'm really proud of them. That's great. But if it comes out of the blue, remember, your partner isn't ready for it, right? They haven't been primed. They don't know that you're going to make this change. If you guys both sit down and take the quiz together and you identify what your love languages are, and then you talk about how is it that you would like for me to communicate to you in your love language, now guess what? Now your partner is primed for that new information. So when you are able to prime your partner, now they're going to receive that message much more quickly, and it's going to then show up on their radar much faster. So if both of you sit down and talk about how would you like for me to communicate in your love language, then they're going to be looking for those messages, and that means that they're going to reflect back to you similar messages much more quickly, and then that's going to make the process work much more quickly and make everybody feel better much more quickly. So again, if you don't know what the languages are, the 5 love language are words of affirmation, so that's saying nice things to people, acts of service, so doing nice things for people, receiving gifts, giving people things that they like and appreciate, quality time, spending time with people, or physical touch, so hugging and kissing each other. So when you identify those love languages, you talk about what it is that they would like for you to do for them so that they can receive that message, then they start to feel much better about the messages they're getting from you. They're going to reflect back to you much more consistently messages that you hear as loving and affirming and attached, and that's just going to make everybody feel better. Okay, this is Psych with Mike. Go to my website, michaelmahon.org. That's going to be the place where you can get podcasts and you can actually get a hold of me. We will be back next week. Psych with Mike.
This is Brett Hall for Royal Gate, the largest Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram dealer in Missouri and Southern Illinois. With over 1,000 vehicles available at guaranteed lowest prices, why go anywhere else? During the spring clearance event, get a hull of a deal on a new 2017 Jeep Cherokee Latitude from only $19,977. That's 25% off MSRP. These Jeeps are equipped, not stripped. Visit Royal Gate in Ellisville, Missouri or Columbia, Illinois, or online at royalgatedirect.com. #1 for a reason.
Sale price includes all incentives. See dealer for complete details.
Visit Royal Gate Dodge in Ellisville or Columbia, Illinois. Mention Psych With Mike and get the Royal Package at no charge.
The folks at St. Louis Barbecue Store are the barbecuing experts in St. Louis. They sell a wide variety of smokers and grills, including great brands like Backwood and Humphrey Smokers, Kamado Joe ceramic grills, as well as the locally made Gateway drum smokers. Need supplies? They have everything you need relating to barbecuing, including rubs, sauces, brines, injectors, tools, thermometers, and more. Plus, they specialize in barbecue only. They don't sell fireplaces and patio furniture, just everything you need to step up your grilling experience this spring. Heard of the pellet grill craze? They stock brands that are built to last, like Memphis Grills, Blazing Grill Works, and Green Mountain Grills that are not found in big box retail stores. You need high quality pellets at the lowest prices in town? They stock up to 10,000 pounds of them in a wide range of flavors and blends. Check them out online at stlbbqstore.com or call them at 314-200-5350. That's the St. Louis Barbecue Store, located at Gravois and McKenzie in South County.
Hi, I'm Kelly Clarkson, and I've toured the country dozens of times, and there's one thing I see everywhere: childhood hunger. The sad truth is that 17 million kids struggle with it. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers up surplus food and gets it to hungry kids. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find
KFTK FM Florissant, KFTK AM East St. Louis, K254CR St. Louis.
Powered by thehomeloanexpert.com.
FM News Talk 97.1.
Fox News Radio, I'm Kathleen Maloney.
We will make America great again.
President Trump playing to an enthusiastic crowd at a campaign-style rally in Pennsylvania to mark his 100th day in office.
We are keeping one promise after another, and frankly, the people are really happy about it. They see what's happening.
And the president knocked tonight's White House Correspondents' Dinner, which he is skipping.
And I could not possibly be more thrilled than to be more than 100 miles away from Washington Swamp, spending my evening with all of you.
People are protesting the president's environmental policies at climate marches across the country.
Angry and organized is the perfect description of the People's Climate March in D.C. today. They're singing and dancing and even blowing bubbles, but have no doubt they are angry, and that anger is directed at President Trump. March organizers call President Trump's policies a catastrophe for our climate and our communities. Mr. Trump has rolled back environmental protections, proposed cuts to the EPA, and eased up on oil and gas regulations.
Fox's Caroline Shively. At least one tornado slammed the city of Canton in eastern Texas. It overturned vehicles, uprooted trees, and damaged homes. The local sheriff's office says it's not immediately clear if there are any deaths, but officers are responding to numerous injury reports. Flooding caused by strong thunderstorms turned deadly in the Midwest. The Missouri Highway Patrol reporting a woman died after being swept away by floodwaters. And parts of the South are getting drenched with a slow-moving storm system. Flood warnings and watches are up. You're listening to Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.